Ever since we bought this place, I've wanted to have a power source back here in the back of the property, not only to be able to build things in the property, in the back of the property, but to be able to have a light here in the chicken shed so that we can extend the winter day hours. And what I really have found in my research is that for me, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth extending that because we get more eggs. That's a pro of extending this. The con is that you decrease the lifespan of your chickens. It's not too drastic, but it is drastic enough to where you have to consider the impact. But for us, we have decided that this is worth it. So I have decided to do a project getting the power from the house all the way back to here. We've had to rewire the garage anyways, so it's not going to be a huge deal to add a few more wires and stick those back here. It's about 30 meters from the garage to where I'm standing right now, and it's going to be worth doing all of that work. And we have two options to do that. We can run a line from a pole at the garage to a pole here, a tension line, a tension cable going between them, and then the power line on that. That is a simple option. However, it's the more dangerous of the two options because there's a risk of it falling because we have a lot of wind in our area and we have a very tall willow tree, and sometimes it loses branches, and sometimes they're big enough that it could cause an issue. The second option is to actually dig a trench from the garage all the way back here. It's about 30 meters. It's a lot of work, but I'm going to choose the more labor-intensive option because it's going to be safer on one hand, less of a fire risk, and it's going to be more aesthetically pleasing because having a wire hanging in the air is just, it's chunya. It's not pretty. it's ugly. And so having the wire in a trench instead is going to be a lot more pleasing to the eyes. So the way I'm going to be doing this is to gather all of these supplies and dig a trench and lay down some bricks, put the cable down with protector, plastic cable covering, and it's going to be covered with more bricks. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with that when I'm actually doing the project, so stay tuned for that if you want. It's going to be fun. I swear, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be fun. The next project on my list is actually a fence. So I need to put a proper fence in to keep the chickens on this side of the yard and not in the garden side. So I need to work on getting this rebuilt or build just a new one. As you can see, it is a fence. It does a decent job, but it's not perfect because the chickens can still jump over sometimes. It's made out of natural resources that I made about 2 years ago, and things are starting to break down because it's wood. It's made out of things that are naturally supposed to break down. And so I need to improve this and put in a fence that is actually going to keep a structure for longer than 2 years. I've already been able to find a few logs in the local forest that have fallen and will serve as posts. And so that's exciting because that's not something I can find on my property. And so I'm going to use those as the base structure of the fence and build off of that, trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this to not only keep it looking good aesthetically, but also functional. I need it to last more than 2 years. So if you have any suggestions on people or videos that you've seen where they're doing fence creation in a more natural way, not the prefab stuff, but to use the environment, use the sticks and logs and natural things. If you have any suggestions for videos or people who have done that, I would love to get your suggestions because I am far from an expert and I would love your input. The next project I have in mind is actually to renew where I'm standing at, which is right next to my garage, between the garage and our fence line. Due to some building restrictions, we can't extend the building to the fence line to create a larger garage. So my idea is to build a temporary structure here and build an area where we can park our car. We need to have another parking space that's able to protect the car from our nasty little weasels who love to munch and eat the brake lines. So I'm going to try and build this out to the best of my ability and make it look good and be very functional and safe for our next car. The last project I have in mind is actually to do a pathway exactly where I'm walking, from the chicken shed all the way up to the house, and a few little offshoots, because this area, this property gets quite muddy during the winter, and so we want to avoid getting loads of mud on our boots and tracking that into the house. So when we're in the house, we're looking out, I want it to just look perfect from the house all the way back there. Just want it to be visually striking. And these are our projects that we're going to plan on doing this year. Many more projects will come out from necessity, but these are the ones that I want to invite you along to watch and keep me accountable for all of these projects, because I know that there's going to be difficulties coming along, but I'm going to do my best to keep them in line, at least within the year. That's the plan. If you're excited to see these projects come to play, then subscribe, and I'm very excited to have you along on my journey here in Hungary.